Okay, everyone, it is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting agenda of the Township of Lyon Board of Trustees. It is Monday, October 2nd, 2023. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We let the record show that we are all present except for Lisa Blades, and she did call me with some personal issues, so she will not be joining us tonight. All right, so we're going to move on. Approval of the consent agenda.
John, could I pull a couple items off of there just for... Sure. I had quick questions on them, but I don't think I can ask them during this. So I think I have to pull them off. The item for the Dougie's disposal application as 11A, and then I had just a question on the disbursements for 11B.
Okay. So 11A and 11B? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone have any objections to that? If not, we'll go ahead and approve the...
John, do you want to move those? Where do you want to move those to on the agenda? You just want to still discuss them? Just pull them out of this?
Yeah, I was going to move them to 11.
Yeah, item 11 is for consent
11
agenda.
has some
Okay.
removals. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, perfect. Announcements and communications. Anyone have anything they'd like to announce?
I'll make a quick announcement. I'm sure everybody knows, but we do not have a November 7th election. The cities do. We got lucky with the township this year that we don't have anything. So we will not be having an election until the presidential primary.
Okay. Oh, did we?
Yep.
Did I pass by that again?
You did.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you. Okay, we do have to approve the agenda tonight, and I don't have any changes. Anyone else?
Well, John, I think, do I have to cite then the two
consent?
items for 11 then?
Do you?
Yes, I will.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do that.
Well, then I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended to include items 11A and 11B that were removed from the consent agenda.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Thanks for catching that, Sean. I do that every time.
I know, well, it's at the very bottom of the agenda.
I guess so. Okay, we'll go back to the announcements. Is that it?
Okay, that was it. My
Anyone
November,
else?
unless anybody else has anything.
All right, if nothing else, we're going to move on, call in public, or you can come up, talk about non-agenda related topics, and it's open for 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to reports. DDA, Amy.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Just an update based on the memo that I shared with everybody. I just wanted to let you know that our DDA is still looking for a few members to fill out some spots in our design and appearance and our economic vitality subcommittees. So if you know anybody who's interested, please send them my way. We're also still looking for some additional sponsors for our Goodies on the Grand trunk or treating event coming up on October 28th, and then for our Lighting Up the Grand that'll take place December 9th. I had the opportunity with Brian to attend a meeting with the Oakland County Business Attraction Team, and we discussed some of the goals for the township and what we'd like to see take place in the industrial district, so it was nice to have the opportunity to meet with them and get an idea of what they're hearing from some of the corporations that want to come over here, what they're looking for site-wise, and make sure that we're aligned in who they're sending our way for more information. So I felt that was a good meeting for us to have. Also had the opportunity to attend a ribbon cutting ceremony for Men Bake Cookies. We had a really good turnout, about 20 or so individuals that came out that day. Mike and his wife and daughter attended. They were very grateful for everybody in the community to show their support. They said they're doing really well in that location and they're just excited. They also are going to be hiring their first staff members, so they've got some applications out there, so if anybody's interested, they're doing some part-time employment. We have a few activities coming up. Our History on the Grand walking tour that'll happen Friday, October 13th from 6 to 9 p.m. We have our Scarecrows on the Grand, which we'll be setting up for this week. Scarecrows will be on display from the 15th through the 31st of October. We still are taking some additions, so if you're interested, there's a link to the registration through our website, funonthegrand.com. Our construction project for the municipal parking lot is moving along, so if you haven't gotten to take a look, please check that out. They are still hoping for a completion date in mid-November, so fingers crossed that everything maintains and stays on schedule. The DDA is also now utilizing our space over the Costello building for storage, so we're slowly transitioning, moving things out of the Rice Street house and moving them over to Costello where we have some more space, so we're able to get more stuff in storage there, so which will allow us to get more stuff for some of our special events to use year after year. So we're excited about that. And then lastly, I wanted to let you know that we are moving forward with the process of abandoning New Hudson Road. So I'm working with our legal counsel, and we'll be putting a petition out there pretty soon and following through with all that application to turn into Oakland County, hopefully within the next month or two. So that process could take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to complete if it's approved. So just to give you an update on that. Are there any questions? Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Amy. All right, we're going to move on to Chief Mallon. That's fun saying chief.
Good evening. Just a couple items here this evening. Just to give you guys an update, the renovations at both stations are moving along fairly well. We've got a tentative week of October 16th. The renovations should be complete at both buildings. Looking really good. October is obviously Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and our department did a fundraiser once again this year that if the crews decided to purchase a t-shirt for the month of October, all proceeds from the t-shirts will be going to the U of M breast cancer prevention program that they've got there. But you will see the crews wearing these shirts out in public while on duty, just in support of breast cancer awareness. For the month of August, fire prevention did 53 inspections for the month, totaling just under 2 million square feet, bringing the grand total to 379 inspections for the year and 12.5 million square feet. Month of September for training, we had 2 company trainings. One was water shuttling, or getting water. Since we're a rural area, we do have areas without hydrants. We did practice moving water around and other means. And then, like I invited you folks to, we had our extrication training a couple weeks ago, which went very well. And all of the training for the month of September, we averaged about 15 hours per firefighter for the month for training. October's training is going to focus on EMS training. And for run numbers, we are up 122 runs for the year. Last year, this time, we were at about, our end of September, we were at about 1,320. This year, at the end of September, we were at 1,442. Any questions?
Thank you for a great report.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Lieutenant Whitfield.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right. Got a couple things to update you on. First off, I furnished a copy of the triennial report. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Just one.
All right.
Well, it's kind of related to, so we looked at getting the flat cameras
Yes.
up and running. So have those appeared and?
We've received the portable. So we have one, but the permits are underway for the 5. So they're not deployed yet. But I did put it on the triennial report, so
Okay.
we'll be ready for the next one.
That kind of answers the question.
All right. I had to do it while I had it in my mind.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? All right, let's move on. So, the Sheriff's Office disseminated a list a couple of weeks ago related to the FBI's Uniform Crime Report. I'm happy and very proud to announce that Lyon was rated the 26th safest city in Michigan. This is out of 1,773 cities, municipalities, and villages. So that's good work by the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. But also, we did have 11 communities. We have 12 contracted areas, and 11 of them were in the top 50, with Addison being the #1 safest. But they're okay.
Is anyone living at us?
Like 800 people. Next up, last week the sheriff, he disseminated another list. There's another telephone scam going around, so I'd like to make the citizens in the township aware of it. Apparently, these guys are calling and posing as the sheriff, and they're asking for personal information. They're related to recent travel, spending habits, and unfortunately, one lady in Waterford Township did give her social security number before she realized it was a scam. So, I'd like to remind members of the public, never give any personal information to anyone stating they're from the sheriff's office. Now, these criminals, they have spoofing technology so they can make their phone number appear like it's calling from a legitimate number, but it is not. We'll never ask for any of that information, and we usually call from block lines because we like to trick people. With that being said, that concludes my report. Does anyone have any questions?
No. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Nice.
All right. Moving on to Planning Commission.
Okay, we had 2 meetings in the month of September. The first one was Monday, September 11th, and we had 4 public hearings. The first one is on our agenda tonight. That's Settlers Ridge, and it was the preliminary review, and the board recommended approval to that, to the township board. We also had the private road text amendment, which is also on our board agenda for tonight. We have the murals, which we're still working on, and then we have the site plan approval, and that's also on our agenda tonight. Then our last agenda item was the Oak site plan review, and they also gave recommendation to the township board, and that's also on our agenda tonight. Then on Monday, September 25th, I was not there because I was at a conference, my Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association. But Brian, the old business was the outdoor dining, and I heard you're still working on that, right? You're setting a public hearing.
We set a public hearing for the second meeting in October.
Yep.
So we'll bring back text for that.
And then under new business, it was that lot 35, which I believe is right here on Grand River.
Yes, one of the outlets for Line Crossing.
One of the outlets.
South of Zot, yep. And that was approved.
So that concludes my...
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, ZBA, I probably didn't have a meeting.
They did not have a meeting
Okay.
in September. They don't have a meeting in October.
It's always an easy report. All right, moving on to Building Department. Dave?
Okay, good evening, everybody. So we go to, this report's from August, always a month behind, we get our numbers together. So in August, we gave out 23 new permits for new homes compared to 17 last year. There was 32 houses that closed, so we had 32 C of Os in the month of August compared to 20 last year. So by the way we're going on the numbers now, we're going to have probably 20% or so more than we did last year by the end of the year, if it keeps going strong, and it is. We're still getting the permits in that. So we had a total number of inspections for all the inspectors was 1,055, which is about right on track. But so we're staying busy there. We're staying busy, so all the builders are keeping us busy, and we have some good builders out there that are keeping up with the pace. So that's about it.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody? Questions for Dave? Okay, we're going to move on. Water system, good news is our surge protector was put in on Friday, so we are hoping to turn this thing on this week. We are waiting for the water consumption to go down a little bit more to give us plentiful time to dial this thing in, but the good news is probably by the end of this week it'll be on and running. And now what that means again, as we all know, it's going to take a while to get through the system. So have patience, it's coming. We finally got it back on. We'll see how it works out. Okay? All right, anybody have any more questions? Any questions about anything? Okay, we're going to move on to unfinished business, which we have none. So we're going to go to new business. First item in new business is Settlers Ridge Plan Development, AP 23-22, preliminary review. Brian, start us out.
Thank you, John. preliminary review this evening is regarding the development called Settlers Ridge on the site of the currently operating Coyote Golf Course. Since you saw the project last time, the overall density of the project is down 9 units to 289. That's broken down by 100 townhomes, 86 80-foot wide lots, and 103 95-foot lots. 81 acres of open space, and about 8.5 acres would be donated to the township, including the current clubhouse and maintenance buildings. In addition to the lower overall density, the smaller lots have been, the side yard setbacks for the smaller lots has been increased. And so those are now 20-foot separation between the buildings themselves. And the lot width for the smaller single-family lots is up to 80 feet wide, and where previously it was at 72. The Planning Commission held their public hearing on September 11th and received a fair amount of feedback from the public, most of which revolved around traffic impacts on Milford Road, faster and more traffic along 12 Mile Road, potential stormwater impacts, and questioning the need for more residential development in the township. But even based on that, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the project with a vote of 6-1. As with the concept review, we find that the site and the project continues to be eligible for a planned development under your ordinance. It is the permitted uses, which is attached single-family homes and detached single-family homes, align with both your current zoning, which is R10 on the entire property, and our working future land use map, which is a concept we've been working on with the Planning Commission and the board, and is in full draft format for the Planning Commission's review. But that document, the future land use map in the master plan, aligns with the transitional zoning concept that's in the plan and supports this general level of density. We do not have a specific number based on our map, and that's intentional. We think that looking at the site and looking at a proposal before the township board is, we should allow some flexibility in design, but I think that this number at 289 is right in the correct ballpark. The other item, the side yard setbacks for the smaller lots, is something that the township board should consider and comment on this evening. Again, it is 20 feet between units, so it's 10-foot side yard setbacks in each one of those lots. The other item that I'll hit on this evening, well, 2 items, I'm sorry. There are monument signs that are proposed on both of the entrances along Milford Road, and there is the sign is generally compliant. There is I'm calling it a pillar that exceeds the 8-foot limitation, so it's a 12-foot tall sign in total, even though the majority of it is 8 feet. It's more of a design flourish than anything, but it does exceed that limit. So I wanted to bring that to your attention for comment. You can modify that standard as part of the PD request, so you should comment on that. And then finally, one of the discussions that we had with the Planning Commission revolved around the landscaping, specifically along the frontages, the 12-mile frontage and Milford Road frontage. The landscape plan has been updated significantly, and there are 1,058 replacement trees that are proposed on this plan. That's still just short of, not just short, but it's short of the 1408 replacement trees that are required per the Woodland Preservation Ordinance. So there are 346 trees that we need to decide if a contribution to the Township Tree Fund is the appropriate mechanism to make up for those trees. But I know we had several planning commissioners who wanted to see a lot of the additional trees placed along Milford Road and 12 Mile Road, and it looks to me that that's been accomplished, so we're supportive of that plan. So really, those are the 4 items: the overall density of the project, the side yard setbacks on the smaller lots, the revised monument signs, or not a revision, up to the township board, and that shortfall of 346 trees that are proposed to be accommodated through a contribution to the tree fund. But beyond that, we find that this plan meets all of our other objectives and standards in the ordinance, and we would recommend approval subject to a satisfactory conclusion on those items.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian at this time? Leslie?
Okay, thank you. I'd like to reference our September 25th review letter, which is in your packet, just to go over some of the highlights. The plans in the preliminary plan set do show a widening of Milford Road along the frontage of the project, including the removal of the right turn in, right turn out at Abbey Lane, and that would be replaced since the center left turn lane would be constructed. Regarding stormwater management, the concept plan is proposing to discharge the majority of the site stormwater to the southwest along an off-site ditch along 12 Mile, which would outlet to the Novi Lion Drain. In this, when we drafted our original letter, there were still some outstanding items with this. The applicant has amended this and increased the amount of off-site stormwater piping, so we're satisfied. The site stormwater management meets the engineering standards. And so onto sanitary sewer. The applicant is proposing to extend off-site gravity sewer also along 12 Mile, connecting to Spalding Road. The Spalding Road sewer does have the capacity to serve the increased number of units if the Planning Commission and Township Board are satisfied with the preliminary PD plan. However, we note sewer capacity should not be the basis for a density increase. Item 3, under sanitary sewer, we have met with the applicant's design team several times throughout this process, as well as the township sewer operator, Highland Treatment, because part of this is a modification to the sanitary sewer master plan and really looking at the area of gravity sewer and how far that can serve. So we identified an area south of 12 Mile that, should they ever connect to sewer, it will likely be with low pressure sewers connecting to the gravity sewer. So that's the basis for really that modification. Also, this applicant is the same applicant as the Summerlin development, and so their engineers have looked at that pump station as well, and that's the part of the Heights of Elko PD. So they've really analyzed this area, and what's included is in your packet is what both Highland Treatment and our office are comfortable with. Regarding pathways, the proposed plan indicates that the existing cart paths are shown to, many of them will stay as an amenity to the development, and we just note that an evaluation of the condition of the pathways should occur with detailed engineering review so we can identify any that need to be replaced or repaired, etc. And that concludes our report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Leslie? All right, I know the applicant's here. Do you want to come up and kind of give us the changes of all this? I know we're all pretty familiar with it.
Yeah. Not too many changes. All right, so when I was at the Planning Commission, they told me there's a new 10-minute rule, so I will try to be quick tonight.
Fully adopted today.
Okay. So I'm Jennifer Thomas with Lombardo, and we are here tonight for the preliminary Board of Trustees presentation for Settlers Ridge. With me tonight, I have Joe Klee, Amy Ackerman, Jason Emrine, and Mike Labady. And then the purpose of tonight's meeting is just to give you guys an overview of Settlers Ridge, the items that we've adjusted since we last saw you, and then just go through any questions that you might have. So again, we are at step number 8 of the PD process. So we are at the preliminary review and action by the Board of Trustees. I do we pass out? Okay, sorry. I didn't know if you guys had the handouts or not, but in the handouts you'll see we have had a series of collaboration of meetings between Oakland County Roads, the township, homeowners, just to kind of show that we are taking those steps to make sure we're having the proper conversations and moving us in the right direction with this project. Overall, site information and design considerations that we looked into for the site. It's located at the northeast corner of Milford Road and 12 Mile, currently the Coyote Golf Course, zoned R1, in a future land use of single-family residential, and we are proposing to put a planned development on this site. We have done a review of the natural features, existing surrounding land uses, the future land use plan, density, utilities, water, stormwater, sanitary, and then obviously the PD ordinance. And our key objectives and goals with this is to maintain the spirit and intent of the master plan of Lyon Township and minimize our impact on the neighbors, utilize the natural features as best as possible, and be a good neighbor to all. So on our previous Settlers Ridge layout that we brought through at the concept plan, we had 298 units. We have reduced that by 9 units to get us down to 289. We removed a chunk of lots that was up at the Milford Road entrance and then connected the 2 cul-de-sacs, which also had a reduction in lots. We have improved our open space, so we do have no lots backing up to each other. We previously had 8 that were semi-touching, so we've gone through and made sure that that is 100% non-touching lots. And then we've increased our size from 72 foot to 80 foot wide. And then also on those lots, we have increased from a 10-foot setback to a 20-foot setback. So just a quick overview of Settlers Ridge. It is a total of 183 acres with just over 81 acres of open space for a 44% net open space. We are proposing to donate 8+ acres to the township, which is in the northwest corner of the site with the clubhouse. And then we have 86 80-foot units, which was previously 72-foot units at 94. And then we have 103 95-foot units, which we previously had 140, for a total of 189 single family, and then a total of 100 multifamily. So in total, again, we have 289 units total tonight. Previously, we had 298. And then from a development timeline for this, obviously it would be after next golf season. I know that there was a little confusion after the last meeting, but we are not taking them out of business for next year. Hopefully we'll be through the process and the plan with the project and be able to start towards the end of 2024, most likely the beginning of 25, the way things will play out. So some of the Settlers Ridge community benefits, we have natural feature preservation with the rural view shed in the right-of-ways, woodlands and wetlands, the curvilinear roads, so not your straight cookie cutter blocks, all lots, oh, that was a mishap from last meeting, abut to open space, and then the dedication of 8+ acres to the township. We are doing traffic improvements on Milford Road in 12 Mile. The traffic improvements on Milford Road include the left-hand turn lane for the frontage of our site, and then the paving of 12 Mile for the frontage of the site. We are maintaining the open space within the project and along the road frontages. It will be walkable, internal and external, so we are utilizing the cart paths to give us more of that nature feel, curvy, windy paths throughout the interior of the site. And then we have the pathways along Milford Road and 12 Mile. And then this will also provide the connection and completion of the water main loop. Once Summerlin project comes in and this project comes in, they will tie together and you'll have a complete loop. And then the overall improved stormwater management. So just a high level on the township parcel. I know that some individuals were able to visit the site, but an overview of what will be donated to the township is the clubhouse, all of the outbuildings, maintenance sheds, parking lot, everything that currently comes with the clubhouse. We will be putting a new roof on the facility, and then we will also be doing a assessment of the building to make sure it's in good working order for you. We will provide the sanitary hookup for the clubhouse to the main, and then all of the personal property that is inside the clubhouse will stay, which would be tables, chairs, kitchen equipment, desks, those items. And then we have confirmed that all of the mechanical equipment inside the building is 5 years or less, as far as new. This is an update. We did not have this at the Planning Commission. Just a rendering of what our entrances will look like coming down Milford Road. I know on the black and white, it's hard to tell sometimes, so we added this in. You'll see there the pillar that Brian was mentioning that exceeds the 8-foot limit, which we would ask for during the PD process if we could talk about that and possibly keep it, because it does provide to the entry here. So overall for the stormwater, existing conditions right now, the majority of the stormwater on the site goes to the northwest corner and up towards that direction. Once the site is completed and built out, we will have our stormwater ponds on site, which will hold and infiltrate water, and then the remaining overflow would go to the southwest through the drainage ditch that Leslie mentioned at a restricted rate, and will significantly help with some of the water issues that are off of this site that this site contributes to right now. Off-site sanitary, we are still in the midst of our design. We did have an initial resident meeting on June 28th. Where we held it here at the township. All of the residents along this south section of 12 Mile were sent letters and invited. We had majority of all the residents attend that meeting. We had really good conversation and great turnout. Got all of their contact information and have been going back and forth with a few of them when needed. We did send out some additional mailings on August 7th just to kind of keep them updated on where we are in the process. And then our next steps for this would be to finalize our sanitary location. So again, we have a preliminary location right now. We need to send that over to the township and then the road commission to get final approval. And then once we have that blessing, it will determine the final easement placement, so we can go back to those residents that we'll need to start having those easement conversations with. And so we look to hopefully start sending out those letters and having those conversations within the next 30 to 45 days. Just an overview on our project, or our product, the multifamily, which we've seen before, our 80-foot lots, our 95-foot lots, and then that brings us to the end. If there's any questions and anything we can help you with.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. That was pretty helpful. All right, let's open up the conversation. Anyone want to start?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
I can go on it. I guess, a lot of my comments are still kind of the same from the conceptual review, and it basically, the main thing was density. 165 units based on the parallel plan. You're asking for 289, which is a 75% density bonus. You provided some community benefits like the rural view shed. I would say that's probably about it. The clubhouse aspect of it is interesting. This is the first meeting that we've heard anything about the condition of the clubhouse. At this point, I'm not aware that we as a township need it. We just put on a multi-million-dollar addition here. We haven't filled it yet. And then we'll also be getting possession of the old library once the new library is built. I would definitely want to have our building official take a look at that building too. Provide an environmental assessment on it, something so we know what we're getting is just more than a few bullet points that you shared tonight. With the density bonus, again, that's going into the utility impacts to the township. We're having issues with the wastewater treatment plant, and we're using up capacity that we had reserved for industrial and commercial developments. We're going to get to a point where, yeah, we can expand the treatment plant, but we're getting to a point where we're also not going to have enough room in the pipes. And depending on what you're doing off-site, maybe that is alleviating it, but I don't want to be in a position where we have to install parallel sanitary sewers in the township because we overbuilt. And lastly, the traffic impact study. This came up, and there were 14 recommended improvements that were listed in the report. This project's doing one of them, which is the left turn lane, which is kind of already there. It just needs to be restriped and the tapers installed. So I think you guys could do a lot more, especially when you're getting this much of a density boom, to at least address some of these issues, particularly with the traffic mitigation. So this is pretty easy in my mind. I'm definitely against this project.
Okay. Sean? Dig in?
Brian, I think it would be helpful maybe for everyone to talk a little bit more about the parallel plan, because Chris mentioned 165, your number is 303. They're two very different numbers, not even in the same zip code. Could you touch on that, just to get a better understanding? Because as I understand it, the 165 is based on its current zoning, its current R1 zoning, which is not congruent with what we have master planned this to be.
I believe it is master planned as R1.0.
The 2015 master plan does have it as R10. And so that 165 number that's in the parallel plan, Lombardo has prepared two parallel plans, basically one that's in line with our existing zoning and the 2015 master plan, and one that's in line with the working master plan that that's in front of the Planning Commission right now.
And that master plan that's in front of the Planning Commission now that you've been working on is the plan that allows you to arrive at a number of 303.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So it has multifamily along approximately the top third of the site, and 1 acre zoning on the southern 2/3.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I see it both ways. I do see that obviously at the north end, we have hundreds of acres of industrial property, of which the portion immediately north of this has already been planned for industrial site condos. I forget how many, maybe a dozen or so, but these are more intensive users. And so when you talk about the transitional zoning plan, that is obviously going from industrial to traditionally not right into residential, but in this case it's residential. But you're saying then you're feeling, and the master plan is supporting this feeling of going into a multiple family type product allows us to, it's a big leap, but makes that transition.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The 2015 master plan, I mean, there's a stark difference. It's I-2 along the southern portion of the Walbridge property, which is our most intensive industrial district, and just to the south, we have 1 acre rural agricultural zoning, and it's just, there's a huge discrepancy there, and to put the two of them next to one another, in my mind, it's going to devalue any single-family 1 acre lots that get built along the northern portion of this. So it makes sense to have a transitional zoning concept here, and with the buffers on something like this, a fair amount of space between the property line and the attached units. I think it's just a good practice.
And for clarity, I don't disagree with the products being proposed. The multifamily is fine. The single family, as you move further south, is fine. It's the total number of units is what I'm objecting to.
So I guess what's hard is we're really in between. We're in between a plan that is, 9 years old, going on 9 years old, and we're getting ready to adopt a new plan that, this is more in line with. So, I have the traffic concerns. I don't know if you can speak to the mitigation item that Chris brought up at all. I know when we talked last time, I had the issue with lots butting up to each other, and I see most of them have at least 20 feet or more of space. Some of them only have 15, but there is a separation. I would say that no matter what number we end up with, I think it's important that those be delineated, or the adjacent neighbors will simply start cutting it and putting swing sets in it, and pretty soon there'll be no way to access this area. Lombardo, as far as I'm concerned, has a very recent example of a great project, which is the Old Orchard in concert with Blake's, and I think one of the hallmarks of that was keeping the orchard and keeping the tremendous amount of open space. And I think that what I liked about that plan was the fact that a lot of the open space, though much of it was part of the orchard, was together, it was accessible, it was, it was not snaked in here and there where people didn't know if it was their yard or open space. And most of this is usable open space. Some of it's labeled as park and it's a big area, but I also find that there along the east side are long stretches where you really can't even get to what is several acres of open space down the east side. So I guess I would like to see a handful of lots taken out of this plan, and I would like to see, well, I'll start with lots 1, 104, and 89, which I think goes to the concern of the Planning Commission for kind of that buffering from the road. I know you're 200 feet, and that sounds like a big number, but 200 feet isn't a huge number. 300 feet isn't a huge number. You can drive by and clearly see. I mean, some of it has to do with what you're buffering it with. So this is going to be not a wooded area. It's going to be wet and marshy and not planted. So I would say taking those 3 lots out, especially the worst one on here by far is a 189. I mean, you turn in, and I don't know who would want to live in that house where you know, you just right on the corner, like 1,000 headlights every night shining in the front of your house. But I would start by taking those off, which achieves I guess the idea of the Planning Commission for giving more of a buffer. And I'd like to see a few of the other lots pulled out to allow better access to the open space. The lots I have were 20, 42, and 124, which gives you the ability not to just create you know, an 80-foot wide access, but maybe a 20 or a 30-foot wide access, and then redistribute. And I'm sure Jason's loving this because he's got some engineering done, and you know, it's just easy for me to sit here and move lines on paper, but I know there's a lot of engineering and stuff that's already happened. But if you can start redistributing some of that saved space, you're going to increase, you're going to limit, you're going to take a handful of units out, you're going to put in its place either usable open space or access to usable open space or a buffer. I think most projects, you know, the projects where there's a really nice buffer between the road and the project, people don't care if there's 100 houses or 1,000 houses back there because they don't have to see it. They care about the traffic impact, but what's the one across from Riverwood on 10 Mile? Used to be called Forest Farms. What do they call that now? Riverwood Estates? On the north side?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that one, I mean, there are a couple hundred houses back there, and you can see like 10 from 10 Mile. And so I think of that one as being, I mean, that's an extreme example, but one where, you know, you've got a nice buffer from the road. The lots I rattled off did not include one along the far east side of the project. I saw some open area, but it seems to be mostly regulated wetland, and the area where you would maybe put a pathway or access to the park areas would be through the 25-foot buffer. So I don't know about that. Your 8-foot sign, make it 10 feet. I don't care. It looks nice, and it's far enough off the road. Just to weigh in on that, I think it looks really nice, and I think that's what people are going to care about. So I don't care if it's 8 feet. It doesn't have any impact on anything. So I guess while I understand Chris's concern from traffic and density, I don't think 165 is a fair number, which is why I'm not as worried about the 165. But you're at 289, and I think if you can get that number to, you know, down into the low 280s by doing some of the things that I've asked for, you can achieve some goals that are going to be beneficial for not only the aesthetics of the property, the project, but also for the users, the end users, to access some of this area that makes the project, like we talked about with the old orchard, you know, an open space project where you can really access it, and it's all delineated, so it's always there, and it doesn't just go away. And I guess I'd like to talk more about traffic. Excuse me, maybe later on, but I'll stop for now.
Okay. Well, I do think traffic is going to be a big deal. I mean, that's what I hear mostly. I agree with Sean about keeping the front looking good, because you can't see what's in the back. Really, it's not impactful. I mean, the difference, I believe, between the orchard is it's an orchard, and they had a buyer for that. So it's
Right.
They could make their money back for the green space, which if they could keep the golf course and put the homes in there, that would be a great deal. But
We tried.
There'd be a lot of golf balls flying over a lot of homes. But anyway, I'm just going to say, Patty, you want to go on? You got anything you want to add?
Well, I'm personally, I'm fine with the density, because we've talked a lot about it at the Planning Commission, and I think we actually talked about it here at the board level too, about how we needed that transition. And I know Brian has talked to us about that before, and I think we all agreed that that was what was necessary.
And I think you need that buffer. That's going to be heavy industrial up there. And I'm pretty happy with it. I like that, Sean, you had mentioned taking a few more lots out, and they did. But the benefit of getting the property too, I think is amazing. And I think it would be very poor of us to not take it. I know I talked to the assessor. They said it's at least worth 1.2 million. This is for our residents. We can do amazing things there. We could use it as a, if you get all the amenities, we went there, Michelle, I, John, Brian, Amy, Dave, and we were all just totally amazed at how well kept it is. We just started dreaming of all the wonderful things we could do for our residents. You know, you can hold weddings there. We can have baby showers there. They can have, and they were mentioning to us a lot of the team sports go there for their annual sports dinners and their trophies and all that kind of stuff. But just not only that, we still are looking maybe for a place for our Solera too. There's just so many things. We're talking about the pond and have ice skating. Maybe part of it we could use for Safety Town and not have to use the property across the street. I mean, the ideas are endless in my opinion, and I think they don't make more property. Nobody's giving us more property. This is an opportunity for us. And if it doesn't work out, we can always sell the property. But to be given an opportunity like this with all the things that are inside of it, it's amazing. You should go over and see it. I mean, the golf course is going to be open for still some time, or you can get with the Anthony's group, and they'll take you over there. But weren't we impressed?
Yeah, it was very nice.
Nice
spot to have.
Yeah, and we need room for our new equipment that we're getting, our trucks, we have no room for this stuff. So somebody wants to give us 8.5 acres with a building with a new roof and everything that's inside of it, it's just an amazing thing. So I'm all for it. I'm good.
Okay. Well, before I move it on, I do want to say, I do like the idea that Sean had about eliminating some of the homes in the backside to allow for access to the green. I think that's a great idea, and that's a few homes that would help the density a bit. Yeah, I think the property is pretty nice, and I think it's really a great deal for the township to get something like that. But anyway, I'm going to go on. Go, Robert, you want to?
Oh, I was just going to ask, you talked about...
I was going to put her last.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I don't have too much. The cart paths, you talked about keeping those. Now, are you going to make sure that they're fixed if they're sinking or all cracked already?
Oh, yes.
Go through and fix those up first.
Yeah, because I don't know if you guys have golfed out there, but if you do, some of them are gravel, some of them are fresh paved, and some of them are not. And I think we've already been talking to Leslie's group because we deal with them quite frequently on pathways inside our sites. So we'll make sure we do the plan that Leslie mentioned, where we do an assessment and note it on the plans, the sections to be replaced.
The other thing for me too was the traffic study, and I just find it weird that it was done like August 3rd and not when everybody's in school. So I don't know, the accuracy, or do they just pick a day because you guys do traffic studies all the time?
So I have Mike here with me tonight, so if there's specifics to how they handled the traffic study, because I know that there's some COVID factors still that go into that, and then some other things. Okay. So he can answer some questions on traffic after, if you guys would like.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. So on the building front for the donated property, I'm happy to hear about the roof, because that was going to be one of my concerns, was going to be, do we know condition of these things? I'd still like to have, no offense, but somebody who isn't the person trying to give us the property, just check it out and make sure there's no other concerns that we might have, so we don't take this thing and then have a big bill to fix something right off the bat.
Yeah, we were going to pay for a third-party study, just so you know.
Okay,
we're not commissioning the study ourselves.
Very, very good. That's let's see. On the sanitary sewer extension, is the sorry, design capacity, is that allowing for, if you're asking the people who live along that section to, be granting easements and dealing with the construction of that, will they have the opportunity to connect if they were to choose so, either during that process or in the future?
Yes.
All right. The, let's see, sidewalk stuff. Branching off of the cart paths, it looks like you're using some of the interior cart paths to function as the frontage pathways along certain segments. Just making sure, again, like Michelle said, the condition, but then also that, I don't know if we need to have, easements drawn up for those areas.
We will.
So that okay. And it looks like that extends all the way to, you'd be doing pathway compliance all the way to the northern edge of what would include the parcel that's being donated to us. Right, okay. And the only other weird thing that I'm seeing sidewalk-wise is that it looks like you've got sidewalk on both sides of all your interior streets except for a chunk of what you have labeled as, I think, Road H, which I'm looking at sheet 4 of the grading and utility plan. And it looks like it's missing along that segment, which is weird because it makes those 2 townhouse units on the north side of that road the only residences that don't have sidewalk frontage. So just, I don't know if I'm reading the drawing wrong or if it was missed or if there's a reason for it, but something to look at. Let's see, what else do I have? For the density overall, I guess the transitional concept is good to me. I'm not necessarily concerned about the overall numbers, assuming that the new plans end up going forward, although it is kind of a weird situation to be in because we're technically, it's not approved yet. So it's kind of a weird space to, on paper, say that we are giving you a huge bonus, even though we're planning it in the process to be not a huge bonus. It's hard to reconcile that a little bit. Then I guess just coming back to traffic, first question would be on the along, similar to the pathway, that center left turn lane, through lane, whatever, extension would go to the northern property, the existing northern property line, even though you're donating that, correct? Okay. And then that being kind of the only mitigation, I don't know what realistically I can ask you to do beyond that, but this is still my biggest concern is that, and it's not necessarily just the fault of this development, because, looking at existing conditions to background conditions, we already go from E to F at the main Grand River Pontiac Trail and Lefty Road intersection that everyone's concerned with. You're then projecting, taking, multiple mitigations into account in the traffic plan to say that, the build-out state is going to be improved to, I lost the page here, but I want to say going from F with background to D in the future, which sounds great, but I have, I guess, some concerns about how realistic some of those other mitigations are. Like, as we heard tonight, yes, we're working towards abandoning the New Hudson Road approach to that intersection, which is one of the suggested things. But some of those other geometry changes were based on a plan from 2009 that I don't believe is realistic anymore, including the abandonment of the Pontiac Trail approach. And even if these things were going to happen, who knows how far out into the future we are. So that's still, getting to that improved traffic level of service for that intersection is not going to be something that happens anytime in the near future. So I wish there was something more we could do to mitigate the traffic, although obviously that turn lane being done now is a step in the right direction. But I don't know what other options are out there that you might have been able to explore. So I would be curious, I guess, since we have somebody to comment on traffic, to hearing more of it.
Okay.
That's it.
Thanks, Robert. Okay, well, I think the biggest problem we're going to have with traffic is because we have the funnel that comes down to the middle of town. And so, I mean, it's going to be kind of hard to maybe widen up Milford Road till we get to the bike trail and then bring it back to 2 lanes, and we would have to do that until our ring road gets put in, which we're working hard at doing. And I think that's one of our big problems, and it is going to cause some problems, no question. That's why maybe you can answer a few questions for us on the traffic, because I know it's a big deal for us. We deal with that on every new project that comes in. And I do want to say, I mean, Lombardo is an excellent builder. They always have been, and they've done everything they've always told us. And I agree with Sean about the orchard. That was a magnificent project. We're really pleased with that. And we just want good, solid, gorgeous projects, especially along our Milford Road corridor. It's important to us, and that's why everybody's so picky with everything. And, you know, we just want to do our job. So, yeah, I mean, do you guys want to have any questions for the traffic person, or? I mean, I don't think there's anything you can do, actually, myself, other than, you know, that I just... I know we had some questions. Did you want to ask some questions about that? I'm not sure. Chris?
No, I guess I was just trying to see if there are any more items that were in the recommendations that could be picked up other than just the one. And I know Amy had mentioned about one about closing New Hudson Road, but...
Where's the new Hudson Road?
Yeah, we have been working on that.
The one behind the gas station?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I didn't even
the-
know that was a road.
It's the southwest-bound approach, I guess, if you were to...
Did we ever get an
Does
answer
anyone
about
have
the
any,
trees?
do you want me to have Mike come up? Does anyone have any questions for him?
346 trees, I mean...
The only,
Oh,
no,
do you want me to answer that? So-
in March.
Well,
So
I'm
the-
just asking.
Yeah,
It was in
the,
March.
Oh, the traffic study?
Yeah, the traffic counts were done in March
Okay.
of '22, so it was when school was in session.
They produced it. Okay, gotcha. I see.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that
Thank
clarifying.
you. I appreciate that.
If that was
John,
only-
you asked the question about the trees,
Yeah.
and the solution to that at this point is a contribution to the township
Okay, well, we haven't
street fund.
talked about that. And if
Correct.
If they're,
If you have
I mean,
other
are you
ideas,
willing
yeah.
to do that? Contribution, okay.
Yeah, we suggested that at the planning commission, but they wanted to get your take on it.
I'm okay with that. I'd rather be able to put trees where it makes sense than cram them in just to cram them in.
Well, so I was going to ask, you know, you're going to be paving 12-mile roads, quite a stretch of it, and you've already talked to a bunch of the neighbors. Perhaps some of those trees could be planted on their property once you clear. I mean, I'm guessing you're going to lose a lot of trees, and it's always the nicest tree that's in the worst
Yeah.
spot.
I would love it if that would count. I think Mr. Town brought that up at the planning commission meeting as well, but I think the question is if we're not planting them directly on our property, does that count? It's an off-site for an improvement that we're doing, and I don't remember how that got left, Brian, if someone needed to look into that or how we needed to approve that.
Yeah, we don't, I didn't follow up on an answer but we can certainly spend that 346 trees off-site throughout the township. I think the question is just, does it have to be on municipally owned and operated property, or can it be on private property?
Maybe we have to ask Carol that.
Well, and obviously, some of the neighbors may not want trees.
Correct.
You know, and I think that's the issue, but I guess I would like for you to be able to go back to them and say, we have a couple of hundred trees that we could plant here, and you're going to get them, and you're going to have to maintain them, and, you know, but I mean, the trees that you're going to remove are not probably going to be on the property, it's going to be in the road right-of-way.
Correct.
Also, everybody on the Meets and Bounds parcel, as I would if I lived there too, becomes attached to the trees between their house, their parcel, and the
I'm the
right-of-way.
same way. Yeah.
Right, so I get it, I would feel
Yeah.
the exact same way if I were them. So if we can allow these trees and maybe even a different formula, because we don't want to plant a 2-inch caliper tree in these people's front yard. They've just lost like a champion oak. So is there a way to say, all right, there's 300 trees, there's 10 people who are going to be impacted, maybe we can put 6-inch caliper trees at a different ratio of them and actually plant meaningful trees back in these folks' yard, because our ordinance requires them to pave this road. It's an improvement for the public to share and not just the people who are going to be living here. Not everybody wants to live off a paved road, but that's what our ordinance requires. So I think that allowing them, in my opinion, to plant them on someone's yard who's going to be impacted, because this is such a long stretch and a fairly wooded stretch, I would be in support of if those residents would be willing to take some trees on the frontage. Most of them are pretty good-sized parcels, so we're not talking about a little 60-foot lot that would get 2 trees. We're talking about a handful of trees perhaps on each of these lots that are larger trees. I don't know.
Kristen, can you do that?
Because I believe this is going to be a planned development, you do have some flexibility through your contract, your PD agreement to do this, but obviously that's going to require the consent of the homeowners, and it's going to be a couple additional steps than just saying, hey, Lombardo, you have to plant trees on these people's property.
And that's why I think going back and meeting with them and letting them sign up for it and trying to work something out would be good. They think you're just going to cut a bunch of trees down, and if maybe you are, because it's in the road.
We're trying to save as many as we
Well, that would be
can,
great.
but we don't know right now because we're actually just finishing up the design plan, and now we have to go meet with the road commission for their take on the 12-mile design. Our intention is to try and save as much as we can. We're probably going to lose some, and then the biggest thing is going to be the scrub brush that everybody has that gives that type of screening type feel, which might be more of an impact than maybe a tree coming down, because people are going to feel like they lost their privacy.
I know this might be a lot, but maybe there's some way of allowing, if you're talking about scrub, but instead you're talking like undergrowth.
Yes.
Perhaps there's some sort of a shrub or some other replacement short of a tree where you can offer some solution. I'm not asking you to
Yeah.
do a landscape plan for the whole front. I mean, it would be great if you could save a lot of trees. It's obviously expensive to take them down. These folks are not going to want to lose them. So it would be great to avoid as much of it as you can, but okay.
So I guess that's something that you could look into, Brian?
It's certainly something that can be tied up before final.
Okay.
I know it's unconventional, but these are the people impacted the most,
No,
so
I
let's
think you're
get
right.
them, let's get them the mitigation instead of going and planting trees somewhere else.
Yeah, we talked about that at the planning commission level, so we like that idea.
No, I think it's a great idea. 346 ought to cover them up pretty good.
Wait, that's a lot of trees.
They would look like shrubs, I think. Okay.
I guess jumping back to the traffic stuff, is there a willingness to do any of the other recommendations that are more feasible than, closing out Pontiac Trail? Like, adding another northbound lane on Milford at the intersection, which is actually adjacent to township-owned property, so there wouldn't be right-of-way concerns. Stuff like that.
Where are you talking about, Chris?
Northbound Milford Road.
Okay.
At Grand River. If you were to add a right turn lane there.
I don't know. That's pretty close to that building, though.
Is there enough space for that? But
You're right. We do own that.
But it is owned, and for some reason, just slightly north when you get to the Comerica, it's just like a foot or two short of 2 lanes.
I mean, that type of improvement would not be something that I would be able to stand here tonight and say yes to. I would obviously have to go back, work with our traffic consultant, the road commission, and then ultimately the owner of my company, because you're asking for an improvement at Grand River and Milford that has a lot of end users outside of just us. And I'm not trying to sound that way, but that's a big conversation that we would have to ask us to add lanes at Grand River and Milford.
We just talked to the road commission about that intersection, and they told us that there's no money to improve that for 10 to 15 years, and they don't plan on it, and they don't see it happening.
Right, obviously, if you're going to make road improvements, you've got to have their cooperation.
So we thought the same thing with,
I think the biggest road improvement we could do is that ring road. If we could get that
That's
ring
what-
road put in, I
that's what
think it's going to be the biggest thing
that
we
can
could possibly
get us off
do.
that road, and you don't want
Along
people to.
that line then, something, again, not expecting you to have an answer to this right now, but something for you guys to think about. I don't have a number in my head, but another possibility is some sort of contribution towards that ring road project would help both the background traffic and your users I'm not, like I said, no idea how feasible that would be, but
We've
it
got a
doesn't hurt
long road to
throw it
hoe
out
here
there.
on that deal. I mean, it's probably going to be a ways out.
Oh, I understand it's not happening in like immediately, but
And it keeps getting more expensive, so the bigger the number, probably the better. But no, I like where your head is. Not a bad idea.
All right, well, does anyone want to make a motion one way or the other? We've talked this thing through.
I have a bunch of odd things, so maybe I'll start. I'll make a motion to approve AP 23-22, subject to all of the review comments, subject to the removal of lots 1, 20, 42, 104, 124, and 189. That's 6 total lots. And I'm going to ask that they figure another way on the east side to access that meaningful open space, possibly with the elimination of one more lot along that stretch. And I'm going to make a comment that in this motion I don't object to the 8-foot pillar at the entryway sign, though I understand that that's a development agreement item for the end. The motion also includes working with the 12 Mile Road residents to allow them to achieve their tree planting requirements by planting trees where allowable by the private owners on that frontage property in a manner and timing to be determined at final site plan.
Okay.
And again, just for the record, that's if the property owners are willing.
All right, would anybody like to second that motion?
I'll support that.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the Oaks AP 2350 site condo. Brian, that's you again.
Okay, thank you, John. I had the plan up and it crashed on me.
Sorry,
No, not your fault. Okay. The Oaks project that you have before you this evening is a 85 single-family residence project on 104 acres along 8 Mile Road. This is a project that the Township Board has seen before and has approved before. Simply the site plan approval and condo approval expired last year, and so the applicants are here before you this evening asking for reapproval. And of note, this is a straight zoning project, so there's no density bonuses, there's no plan development requirements or obligations. This is a project that's permitted by right, and the only reason that it's before the Township Board is the ownership will be site condo ownership rather than a platted subdivision. So the Planning Commission considered the site plan on September 11th, as Patty noted in her report, and they took action to approve the plan conditionally, just noting minor comments in the consultant review letters. So of note, our planning and zoning comments revolved around 4 items. One, that there are 133 replacement trees that need to be accounted for through a contribution to the tree fund. 2, that the location of the mailbox cluster, if it's required by the post office, which is unknown at this time, if they require it, it should be shown on the final site plans. All the master deed and condo docs are to be reviewed administratively per your zoning ordinance. And then 4 is that the site condo must be approved by the Township Board. So once those 4 items are discussed and approved by the board, this project can move forward, and it would be appropriate for the Township Board to approve this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. You probably have nothing to add to this one. Okay, so the applicant's here. You want to come on up, Ray?
How you doing, Ray?
Good. How you guys doing? Yeah, Ray Cousineau. 2664 Basswood, Wixom. As Brian indicated, we allowed the site plan to lapse, unfortunately. We've done a lot of work on the site plan since the last approval by the board, which I think was July of 21. At that time, I think we received unanimous approval. The plan that's before you this evening is a duplicate of the plan that was approved by you guys in 2021. We have made no changes, minor changes to accommodate the wetland permits, but again, they're just very, very minor changes. Other than that, the plan is the same. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We're just looking for a reinstatement of the...
The 4 open notes that he has, you good with them?
Pardon me?
The 4 that he...
Yeah, those are comments that we've seen before, so we don't have any issues with those.
Okay, then I'm going to open it up. Go ahead.
Ray, yours is one of the few projects we all voted for. I look back at the minutes, and I remember voting against several of them down in that area, but not yours. So this one's pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
I remember there not being many issues, and it was not. It was just a straight site plan. So
Yeah, no special land use, no variances, nothing.
not a lot of complexity to it. So.
No.
Yeah, good sized lots and everything.
110-foot lots, yeah. And we've got about a third of the site is open space also.
Yeah, I don't have any issue.
Okay.
I just had 2 clarifications, and I think I already know the answers. But so your phase 1 looks like you're connecting to the Windridge neighborhood, so that's still part of the phase 1, that vehicular connection.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you correctly.
The vehicular connection looks like you're connecting to the Windridge subdivision, right? That's still
Yeah, phase 1 work will make that connection to Windridge.
Okay, and then stormwater management looks good with the resubmittal.
Yes.
We're all good then. Okay, cool. That's all.
Good?
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, somebody want to make a motion?
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve AP 23-50, subject to all of the comments in the review letters.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, now we're going to move on to consideration for this private road ordinance that I think we had a little problem with when we changed it back to private roads. So we need to change the design standards to regulate the private roads and provide penalties for violation. Basically, Brian, you want to go ahead and tell them how this all worked out?
I will. So I will start by saying sometimes no good deed goes unpunished. I feel like we've looked at the private road ordinance a fair amount over the past few years, and we're still tweaking it to get it right. But a few years ago, when we reinstated private roads and broke the classifications into 2, one allowing new private roads of 6 lots that could be unpaved and 15 lots that would be required to be on a paved road. We didn't take into account existing conditions where private roads were already served maybe more than 15 lots or more than 10 lots. And so the way that it is written in the book today, a property split on something like Sandcrest, which has well over 10 lots on it today, but still has some large pieces of property that could be split, could still be large acre parcels on this private road. The only way to do that under the current ordinance is to pave, and it'd be paving the road to our current standards. We talked about this and had several members of the public speak at a public hearing and at some of the planning commission meetings, and felt it an unfair burden on those property owners who may have invested in the property a long time ago and can no longer split the property under the current ordinance, which I think is absolutely true. It's not something we intended to do, right? When we talked about the private road ordinance originally, one of the main objectives was to allow us to keep the township rural to the extent that we could, and requiring paving of some of these that are quite frankly, the definition of rural, and force some suburban standards on them may not be reasonable, and it was certainly not our intention. So you do have language in your packet which has been recommended by the Planning Commission after a public hearing. I think the key piece there is that we would allow a private road to be split, but it does allow us to, when I say us, it allows the engineer and the fire marshal to require reasonable improvements to an existing road without going all the way to the paving extent, although if they felt it necessary, they could. But things like filling potholes, improving drainage, extending a turnaround or widening a turnaround so that there's safe emergency access, those are things that we envision being requests as part of the approval for splits on these existing private roads. So that's the background. I can take any questions that you might have.
You know, and the biggest thing, when we went back to private roads, we didn't think about the existing people that were living on private roads, and, you know, it came up where some of these people lived on the end of the road, and they wanted to split it for a daughter or somebody to build it. Well, they'd have to pave the whole road to get there, and it was just unfair. So that's why this amendment is here.
One language question for you, Brian. On the note that was added below the 3619 table, it's reading, these requirements do not apply to lot splits in existence. Should that be like to splits of lots in existence? Like, so when I read that, I look at it like, oh, the lot split application is already in, it's already...
So what's your recommendation?
Like
there?
something like does not apply to splits of lots in existence on the date of this adoption.
Or splits available to lots.
Right, something like that, because this is
probably
implying
have some
to me
splits
that
still
like, the
available.
lot split is already in progress.
Yes.
Which I don't think is our intent.
No, you're absolutely right. So
Okay.
that's a good
The
suggestion.
English teacher's not here tonight, so.
Yeah, I had to pick up the slack there.
Okay, we can address that before your next meeting.
Okay.
Now, Brian, I like it. I think it's funny because I'm actually writing a couple of these right now, my day job. But the main thing I like on this is that it's really got to be the fire marshal or the fire department being able to have safe access to the homes. Otherwise, I mean that's the number one thing. Whatever, and reasonable I think is okay. It's a good word, but just making sure that they can actually get in and out and do that. So I like this change and I had no issues.
We actually did a practice run, or when I say we, part of Leslie's staff and Bruce went out to Lee Road, which is where we have an open application for a split that we've been holding for quite some time for this reason. And pending the outcome of that, talking to Bruce and talking to Jareen, they found it helpful to get on site and see, maybe it looked one way from the aerial, but they realized on site that, oh, this is really in better shape than we thought, and we don't think any improvements. I think we're going to find that as we go out and do some of these as part of this ordinance. It'll be helpful.
Okay. Are we all good? Somebody want to make a motion? We'll move it to second reading.
Make a motion to move ordinance number 0623 to second reading with the proposed language change.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. All right, we're going to move on to consideration to amend the site plan approval. Brian?
Yep, this one's quite easy. With all the approvals that are required on a lot of these projects through state agencies, county agencies, detailed reviews of the project, we're finding more and more instances where people have to come back to the Planning Commission to ask for an extension. So we are requesting an update of the site plan validity period to 24 months rather than 12. I looked back and with one exception where extensions were requested, I think 3 times. And the Planning Commission finally denied the extension request. Everything else has been approved. So it's common practice. We're recognizing that that 12 months is a hard time to get a shovel in the ground these days. So we want to update the ordinance to accommodate that.
I'll make a motion that we move AP 23-48 to second reading.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Move on to the adoption of the rules and procedures for township meetings. And I know Carol put some extra language in here, and this should be an easy one also.
Could I just add one thing to the last bullet? I guess I want to make sure, and this is probably a, John, this would be probably up to you, but I'd like to add something to the effect of like additional time can be added if necessary to address all the public comments. I just want to make sure that if the public is making comments that the applicant, I don't want them to drone on and on, but they should at least address everybody if we have one of those meetings where we have a lot of public. Unless you're thinking that it's just 5 minutes per response. I don't know. I just want to make sure they have the ability to respond to the public
I take it as like 5 minutes per response, and I don't think we'd ever really cut anybody off unless it's been the same repetitive over and over.
Yeah, I never
I
cut
think we're
anyone
pretty
off.
good about.
Yeah, it says an
listening to
applicant
everything. Yeah, it's for the
will be
applicant.
entitled. It's
Yeah.
one person.
So the applicant would be, I just didn't want them to be like, oh, I'm responding, but then the 5 minutes is up, so I can't respond to
Oh, no.
the last few people that.
We've never done that ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure,
We'll
would
make
take some
that.
heat if the chair didn't extend the time for the applicant to finish answering the question. I mean, that should
And we
self-regulate.
would too.
I mean, you or the planning
Yeah, right.
commission chair
Yeah,
would
we always-
probably give more time.
Right,
'Cause we
unless it
wanna
gets
hear- we wanna
repetitive.
hear from them, yeah.
They say the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Just
All right, as long as that's clear, and
I think it is. But I understand where you're coming from. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Charter Township of Lyon meeting rules as presented by our township attorney.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to move on, thank you. Okay, budget discussion, and as you all know, we're getting very close to starting the budgeting, and I think what Michelle and Patty and I would like to do is kind of set up a workshop date, and we're looking at possibly sometime here towards middle or end of October, but I'd like to keep it probably towards the end,
October.
if anybody has some time.
Because I think you guys start hunting in November. And we don't have anybody.
Is it possible to do it on a Monday?
Yeah, what about 30th?
that's the 5th Monday, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'll be getting my Halloween costume ready. I don't know if I'll remember.
So we do
Really
it
going
on,
big this year.
So
No,
you're
I'm just
saying,
kidding. I'll be-
You doing Travis?
are we looking at the 30th then?
Yeah.
Is that,
boy, that's really getting close.
Yeah, but that's
We want
okay.
that to be that close?
Yeah, I mean,
Getting
we
closer.
have.
We still
I
have
mean, we don't have
November
to
going
move it
to-
till
We got all
December.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we just want to make
So
sure.
if we make it to 30th, you guys good with that?
So we'll have
What time?
November meeting and all the changes.
Yeah, if that works.
Are we doing it at 5, 6, 7?
Whatever, what, I can.
Yeah,
get-
what time you guys want to do it?
I can be here at 5. I don't know. Forever.
We're all
Chris can.
here.
Anybody good with
I
5?
can do 5.
5 is fine.
5 good?
5
Okay.
p.m.
Let's make it at 5 PM, Monday the 30th,
Workshop.
and we'll try to have things ready for you.
Right. That's where we're going.
Okay, any further oh yeah, we do have a further discussion here.
Okay, Chris.
So we're going to move to items 11, remove from the consent
So we're
agenda.
just looking at
for
Dougie's
action.
or Duncan.
Dougie's. It was just a quick question on the refuse bin information wasn't checked off. So do we know if they're owning those bins? I assume they own their own bins that are in the township?
Now, where are we talking about?
Well, yes, it would have to be at people's homes. So this is garbage pickup at homes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know why it didn't get checked.
Okay, yeah, I figured.
Because
it was
we
just a-
don't manage the garbage, so it would have to be from each applicant.
Okay.
I believe they have an option where they will either provide a bin or you can use your own.
Okay.
So that might be why they didn't check yes versus no. I don't know, that's just speculating.
We can find out though, right, Ed?
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes you can use your own and just put a sticker on it for recyclable. Sometimes is what I get.
Okay. Good.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion to approve the refuse collector license application for Dougie's Disposal and Recycling.
Okay, we have support.
Oh, I'll support, sorry.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. You had 11B?
Yeah, it's actually CES. Nothing wrong. There's just a couple of like invoicing for additional services and stuff for projects, and I think when we do the contracts and stuff, that usually covers possibly easements and stuff. But I guess what I'm really getting at is, and I don't, if we could just get maybe an update on why some of the I guess why we're getting additional services for like the Dolly Road water main, which may just be a simple thing as it's easement acquisition, or the 11-mile force main relocation, which I don't even know if that's come to the board or if that's something that's under the threshold of the board and what these projects are.
Maybe it's bad soils like our old engineer used to always have overruns on.
No.
No, and
I
it's nothing.
just wanted to ask.
Yeah, and
No,
it's
it's
nothing
fine.
against. I know it's all legit. Believe me.
So
I just-
the Dolly Road services, we put extra or additional services on here because it wasn't part of the scope of the design. So for example, for Dolly Road, we had inspection and contract admin time, and actually that project just was constructed. I think we still have to do the connection. So that's why we call it additional services. And we do that also for our own bookkeeping, so it's clear when it's under the design, it's under the scope of that, and if it's additional, it's the things that were not included in the design work. Oftentimes it is easements, though. And then the 11-mile force main is because the road commission is replacing a culvert, and they're forcing the township essentially to move their sewer. So that's that project.
And that's probably a condition we agree to when we put our utilities in the right of way, right? We have no choice but
Exactly.
to move them, so.
We have to move them.
Do you have to?
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
You good, Chris?
Then I'll make a motion to approve the disbursements as presented.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we have wrapped everything up. Any other comments, anybody?
You sure run a fine meeting. I can't believe it's only 8:28.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
All right, then let's adjourn.
Can we introduce Pastor John Pajak, who is the newest member of our DDA board? I didn't realize he was here when I was doing my
Yeah, when he came up.
We met him last
Yeah,
month.
so-
We got to meet him
Yeah,
last
last
Yeah, but that's okay. We always want to say hi.
month. He's still awake, so that's good.
Official, sworn in, the whole thing.
There you go. Good to see you, John. All right, everybody, thanks.
That was good.